If Iran changes its behavior, the restrictions would be lifted. If Iran doesn't change its behavior, the restrictions should not be lifted. If Iran wants to be treated like a normal country, let it act like a normal country.
I have repeatedly said that I would rather have no deal than a bad deal. But if we're successful negotiating, then in fact this will be the best deal possible to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Nothing else comes close.
All right, you be the judge. Did Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just make a far better case to nix a nuke deal with Iran than President Obama just did to make one with Iran? Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and this is your world. And did Bibi just hit it out of the park? Did he just put that Iran deal out to pasture? To historian Doug Weed, who says, at the very least, the president's going to have a much tougher sell now. Doug, explain.
Oh, well, this is not some talking head on Fox like me. This is the Prime Minister of Israel, and he's made quite an accusation. He's saying that this administration is kicking the can down the road. And unfortunately, that resonates with us. We've heard that before. That's what Benghazi was all about. No, this wasn't a terrorist attack. There will be no terrorist attack on our watch. There will be no nuclear war on our watch. But 10 years from now, when we're not here, when Hillary's not here, they can have all the nukes they want. That's the suggestion, the idea that's raised here. That's very alarming. This isn't Obamacare. This is survival of a people.
Now, there were a number of Democrats who didn't attend this speech today. We're going to talk to one of them. But their argument was that this was all just politics and that there was no place for this, certainly in the well of the House. What do you say?
Oh, I think that when we talk about nuclear weapons, that is so serious. We can't mess around with that. It's not about can you keep your own doctor. We're talking about a country and a regime that has not recognized diplomatic protocol. Idi Amin recognized diplomatic protocol. Pol Pot recognized diplomatic protocol. This regime seized our embassy, seized our people, made them hostages. Now we're going to say in 10 years it's inevitable they're going to have nuclear weapons. They'll have as many as they want in 10 years, as long as it's not going to happen in my administration. I think that's serious.
Now, the president, of course, is
discussed.
not saying that, as you know, Doug, but the inference certainly from Benjamin Netanyahu is that he might be with the best of intentions on striking a deal with Iran, but that's what would happen. You agree with that?
Yes, he's saying that's what could happen. You know, this was a very historic day, Neil. There's been 100 of these speeches of heads of state before joint sessions of Congress. There's been nothing quite like this. I'd go back to Douglas MacArthur's speech to find one that has had the political impact that this will have. But what transcends everything to me is the fact that we're talking not about a can that's being kicked down the road, but the possibility of the use of nuclear weapons that's being kicked down the road. That needs to be discussed.
You know, you mentioned MacArthur. He had already been relieved of his services by Harry Truman. Many argue that, you know, the Prime Minister is in the battle of his life and might be a couple of weeks from reaching the same fate. What do you think?
Well, yeah, MacArthur was fired, I believe it was April 11th. He came back here, spoke before joint session of Congress on April 19th. It was a nail in the coffin for Harry Truman, if you just wanted to talk politics, because his approval ratings dropped to 22%.
That's true.
The next January, he lost in New Hampshire, and he withdrew finally to run for re-election. I think this is more than politics. Again, when you talk about nuclear weapons, there's more at stake here.
Okay. Doug, always good seeing you, my friend. And he was there for the MacArthur speech, by the way. Kidding. Doug Weed. All right, to those Democrats sitting it out and now having it out, take a look.
Each was straight out of the Dick Cheney playbook. This was fear-mongering at its ultimate.
He was trying to make people afraid and somehow saying that the president wasn't doing his job.
I resented the condescending tone.
I was not going to dignify what I think is a political charade and be part of Netanyahu's next campaign commercial.
And I also resent the fact that he was telling us how to negotiate.
Now, Illinois Democratic Congressman Luis Gutierrez was not at that presser, but he wasn't at the Netanyahu speech either. Congressman, why didn't you go?
Look, Neil, I don't want to be part of a backdrop for a campaign commercial and for partisan political politics. My record on Israel and its strategic importance and its security, those things are clear. Look, think about it, Neil. Is there anything that Netanyahu said today that he couldn't have said in 2 weeks after the election? So that he could have come back as the prime minister, right, with the credibility and with the backing of the Israeli people.
In that
it's
event, then, Congressman, you would have gone.
So, well, let me just say something. Extending an invitation to the prime minister of Israel should always be an open invitation from the Congress of the United States. But it should be an open invitation. Neil, you know as well as I do that when the speaker sent that invitation, it said, on behalf of the bipartisan leadership of the House and the Senate. That's the first sentence in the invitation. And that was a falsehood. It was not a bipartisan invitation.
So you're more offended by protocol that was violated and not being rude to a head of state.
What I'm trying to say is the following. What I'm trying to say is I think protocol is very important. Let me just say, last week, the Speaker of the House, Boehner, chastised the members of the House about protocol, right? He said, hey, you guys got to comb your hair, you got to shine your shoes, you got to wear a tie. Well, you know what? How about when we invite someone who has a strategic importance to the United States of America, that the invitation be truthful?
All right, so you're still upset about the protocol was run around, and I might agree that maybe they didn't go through normal protocol challenge. But what I'm worried about here is everyone's getting their nose out of joint whether proper channels weren't pursued, when in fact, here's a guy who has the most at stake in an Iran deal that might fall through or be a phony deal, because I believe he and his country are the first target.
Here's what I have to say. Nothing he said today could not have waited 2 weeks when the election would have. Look, Neil, today
we could be within a couple of weeks of a deal that he is already dismissing.
We're not within a couple of weeks of the deal. And the fact is that much of the intelligence services, of the Israeli intelligence service and our intelligence service, we're sharing it each and every day. And let me just suggest to you, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, one of the reasons I wrote to Speaker Boehner last year, and I said, you know what, you really need to set a time for all the members to get a briefing from the different intelligence agencies so they can know what it is we know about the situation. Look, Neil, here's my point of view. We don't know what the deal is because we haven't
But Congressman,
seen it
would you
yet.
be of the same opinion if it was a liberal leader of Israel?
Can I say this? Let me say this. I can only think of what shock it would have been if 2003, when Bush said we were was arguing for invading Iraq, if we had brought the Prime Minister of France to come and give a joint session to condemn.
That's not what I asked you. If this were a liberal prime minister, if this were a liberal prime minister of Israel, would you be stepping out of that room?
Let me tell you something. The last time Netanyahu came to speak before a joint session of Congress, I was there. I sat there, I listened, and I appreciate what he had to say.
But this is the first time he has openly opposed a deal the administration is working on.
I'm just trying to say,
you sided with the President of the United States. That's fine. That's your one. But you sided with the President.
If I could just, Neil,
sure.
This is the third time he's come. I've been there the other 2 times. I have a clear, unblemished record, and I don't think it is right to come and suggest that there are those of us who would not be steadfast supporters of our strategic relationship with Israel and our important historic relationship with them. We will defend them and defend that relationship. There will be no agreement that allows Iran to get nuclear weapons. That is our goal.
Well, that's what his concern was. But Congressman, thank you very, very much. My next guest is no fan of today's BB boycott by Democrats, and New York Assemblyman Dov Hikind is a Democrat. What do you think of what he was saying?
The bottom line is I am thrilled that most Democrats were there, both in the Senate and in the House. But it seems that the Democrats who had the press conference had the press release written before the speech. They were going to attack Netanyahu regardless. The fact is...
Chuck Schumer was there.
Fantastic. The fact is that the Secretary of State is negotiating with the terrorist state of Iran as we sit here. A deal can be made within days. And the Prime Minister of Israel was powerful today in terms of the implications for the people of Israel and for the people of America.
So all these
for
Democrats
the people of
understood. With all these Democrats who didn't go and like the congressman.
Neil, it is an empty argument. They would have been there if circumstances were different, if there was a Republican president, if things were turned around politically, they would have been there. I am really ashamed of the President of the United States and his administration that they are pursuing a deal that is dangerous for the people of Israel.
Well, the president stands by that deal. He says that deal is going to help Israel.
You know something? What? The President of the United States talked about having Israel's back. The people of Israel, in every single poll that is taken, and one that was taken only days ago, they do not trust the Obama administration. It's a very sad fact. They do not trust Obama. You look at the world, you look at what's going on in the Middle East, you look at America's strength and leadership, it is missing in action. Israel is going to entrust John Kerry, Obama.
But we're going to get to a report of the scene there, but not everyone in Israel is enthused with Netanyahu.
There's an election in Israel.
Understood.
But, Neil, this is dangerous, and the Prime Minister was powerful today in terms of creating the debate. Neil, gotcha. 6 weeks, this president has been undermining the Prime Minister of Israel. What did the Prime Minister of Israel do today? He made a speech. Why is the Obama administration so afraid?
Fair enough. Assemblyman, fair and balanced. Look at this from the pro and con crowd. Thank you. Good seeing you.
Thank you so much.
In the meantime, how is all of this playing out in Israel? GRN reporter Sammy Sokol is on the phone from Jerusalem. Sammy, what's the reaction there?
Good evening. The reaction here in Israel is very mixed. First of all, we have the opposition. And the head of the opposition, Yitzhak Herzog, he was attacking today Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He was saying that this speech is not going to stop Iran's nuclear program. And he was saying that this is just going to cause further damage with the administration. And I think this is a position here that you heard again and again, that this speech in Congress is something that won't help the relations with the administration, and therefore many Israelis, actually according to some polls, most of the Israelis did not think that Netanyahu should have gone to the United States.
Well, did they share his view, Sammy, that this was a potentially bad deal the administration is brokering with Iran?
Yes. On the other hand, when it comes to the content of the speech, you will find many people actually praising the content of the speech. Many people in Israel thought that the speech was a good speech. They just thought that the timing wasn't good. It could have been given, maybe the speech could have been done after the elections, maybe another 2 weeks, that he should not have gone to the United States and put himself in confrontation with the President of the United States of America. We heard the former head of the Mossad, Meir Dagan, the chief Mossad, who was head of Mossad under Netanyahu. He was saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu is causing strategic threat to relations with the United States.
So
you have here, on the one hand, you have admiration. You have admiration for the way Netanyahu is capable of speaking, but they say that the timing was very bad.
All right, Sammy, thank you very, very much. Interesting read from Jerusalem. All right, so you already know about the Americans who go abroad, let's say to train with ISIS. Wait till you hear about all the ones we let back in after they have